All right, Doug Smith with another Restaurant Mastermind. We're talking to Matt Triveri. He's the Regional Director of Operations at the Del Frisco's Restaurant Group. And Matt, you have a very unique perspective on the whole COVID situation. One, your girlfriend is a nurse in Manhattan. And as we all know, New York was probably the hardest hit in the entire country.
Yeah.
And two, you help run higher end restaurants, which were hit a lot different because you don't typically have carry out and everything else, which is how the whole restaurant industry pivoted. So what insights can you provide to somebody like me? Midwest, Cincinnati really wasn't hit. The numbers didn't pan out. And we're sitting here going, is this thing really as bad as it is? So provide some insight to us about both sides, how New York was hit and how you've just dealt with the whole situation.
When I'm explaining it to restaurant people, I say it's a Sunday shift that you thought nobody was coming in and you had two servers on and everybody ended up with a 10 table station, right? They were taking care of double amount of patients that they normally would. They were fighting for PPE and all these things that became really scary. And it just like felt like it happened like that. Over the course, obviously, what the city's done has helped because 2 weeks ago, they went back to her old floor. Cases are dropping and all of those things. But New York is a very different beast, I think, when you look at the way things can spread, right? People rely on public transportation that if you've ever been on a New York subway, gets packed, right? We live in tiny apartments packed on top of one each other. Our restaurants are built to maximize square footage, right? So if you go out to eat in New York versus going out to eat in a lot of other places, the tables are closer, they're smaller, the bars are more packed. It's just kind of the way the city operates. So I'm by no means a doctor or a scientist, but you could see how that can kind of be a petri dish for something like this to spread pretty quickly.
So you dealt with it on both ends. You had your girlfriend coming home with that uncertainty. You had your restaurants with the uncertainty. I would imagine your stress level was probably at an all-time high.
Yeah. And I think the tougher part is, being the calming voice for your team, right? So simultaneously overnight, just like you said, you got that in your personal life. And then I have GMs in 5 different cities that are all, looking for answers. And I think what propelled me through it is, okay, I don't have a choice but to be level-headed and strong and figure out how to kind of make decisions quickly for the people around me, I think. And that was kind of the biggest motivator for me.
What strategies did you put in place or are you putting in place regarding reopening? Because New York is starting to get there. You have Texas, which is already open. So what was your game plan or what is your game plan for the reopening process?
Yeah. So I think, we're eager to open. The plus side to not being first is that I've gotten to see the other markets open, right, and learn a lot from that. So, a lot of it's the X's and O's, like, how do we restructure our open table book to, reflect the amount of tables we're allowed to have at 6 feet? How do I work with my landlords and create more space outside, right? Because that's seeming to be a very popular option. And I think if we can have some flexibility to add some of the tables that we lost inside to kind of extended outside spaces, we can bring more people back to work, which is I think one of our biggest priorities. How do we keep our team safe, right? Providing masks and doing temperature checks, making sure that our team feels comfortable. I think one of the challenges we're going to find is in this business, right? There's kind of like an old school build-in that's like, you power through it, right? Work long days, work when you're injured kind of thing. And we have to be very careful about communicating to our teams that, like, now is not the time to be a tough guy, right? If you don't feel well, has to be communicated. Don't take any chances. Take your time off. So yeah, I mean, keeping your team safe. How do we build trust with our guests? They need to visually and see kind of what we're doing to make sure that we're taking the right steps. And then how do we build sales? Obviously, is important too.
You had a post on LinkedIn about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, that talked about high-end restaurants pivoting to a to-go order world. Now, the QSR, fast casual restaurants that already had either drive-throughs or carry out a part of their daily repertoire, have seen pretty decent sales. But on the high-end restaurant, that's typically not part of it. So can you expand on where your thoughts are for restaurants like your group to pivot to what appears to be the new normal, including to go?
Yeah, I think sometimes your best lessons are learned when you don't have any choice, right? I think for years we've been snobs, and I think, and we've been snobs in the wrong way, right? We've always said our food doesn't travel; it's gonna, it's gonna ruin our kitchen, right? And at the end of the day, you figure it out, right? There's ways to do things, and we had no option, right? So a lot of what we did, we looked at some of those more casual restaurants and QSR restaurants to see their systems and what they did, and we learned pretty quickly that it's a great additional revenue stream, and that it is definitely something that you can do. Um, I think the in the beginning, the focus mostly was we don't have a presence in that marketplace. So in the beginning, very heavy, it was a marketing game, because I think when people think to go food, at least in a normal world, you don't think steakhouse. So how do we become appealing? How do we offer options that are a little bit more price friendly so that people might think about us more than on special occasion at home, right? Once a week or twice a week. So we created a lot of programs that offered kind of daily features and more cost conscious items, and then we did grocery, which has been a crazy ride, but in some of my stores has been almost 20% of their sales. So we pared our menu down. We took any ingredient that we had to use to make any one of those, say 15 items. We costed them in a grocery store cost structure. And then we put them online, and we were able to call in and say, I want a pound of this, pound of that. Our butchered steaks, which has been great because I know a lot of people have had a tough time getting beef in some markets. Right. And that then you call, we bag it, you come in, and it's ready to go, within the hour or so. So that's been a huge piece of not only us staying like in survival mode, but it's embedded us in the community in a way that we've never been able to do before, because I think there's a different kind of feeling about where your steakhouse, where you come to have a bottle of wine and a steak, and we're providing the community with groceries to feed their families now. So it's like it's been really good in that aspect. We've made a lot of great relationships in our towns.
So as restaurants like yours pivot to go, I can't help but ask this follow-up question, because it seems to be a lightning rod right now, and that's the third-party delivery. Is that something where, if it's to go, do you see restaurants like yours incorporating third-party, or is there any kind of a delivery aspect that maybe you would hire your own people to help quality control? Do you see that in the future for restaurant types like yours?
I think we will. Here's the tough part about it with the third party. From kind of the readings I've done, their business model, in a lot of instances, isn't profitable either. So something's got to give somewhere, because it's definitely not good for us as restaurants. It doesn't seem to be good for the third party delivery system. So, anytime you have that problem, somebody's going to figure out how to make it viable. And I think if somebody can figure out how to really make it viable and affordable, definitely. I think in the beginning portion of this, there's going to be a portion of people that still don't go out to eat. So I think, yeah, we're going to have that option. I think one of the things that you can do as an operator is you can look at the items that you do offer, right? So your high cost items and the things that you don't get a good margin on already, just don't offer them to go, and your things that don't travel well, just don't offer them to go. You have the freedom to decide what you want to put online. So I think, even creating certain menu items that, travel well, and have a good margin for you, you can kind of lean on those, but I don't see us having the option in the next 6 months for sure.
Got it. Last question for you. You've been in a restaurant game long enough. You've seen the highs, you've seen the lows. If someone is watching this and are relatively new to the restaurant industry, maybe they bought in, they have a franchise, or they just became an owner 2-3 years ago when the economy was humming and they've never faced a bump in the road quite like this. Is there one piece of advice that you give to someone like that to try to help them down the road?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing, and sometimes the scariest thing, is don't be afraid to adapt and change. In fact, encourage it. Build an atmosphere where you are able to kind of move along with the times. There's a great documentary about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, and one of the things Jimmy Iovine was able to do through his career is reinvent himself. And he has a great quote that I think is always good. Is what made him successful 5 years ago doesn't make him successful now. And I think as a brand, it's obviously important to stay true to who you are and what you do best. But it's also important to make sure that you evolve, particularly in a tough time, right? It's hard sometimes to go, for 10 years, this made me successful, but then overnight, right, the marketplace changes, and the longer you hold on to that, the harder it is to kind of make a change that's going to allow your business to survive. So that would I think be the biggest thing, probably.
Good piece of advice. Matt Triveri, Regional Director of Operations at Del Frisco's Restaurant Group. Matt, I appreciate you taking part in the mastermind. And obviously, you and I are connected on LinkedIn. If someone's watching this and they're not connected with you, is it okay for them to reach out to be able to connect and hopefully share ideas?
Absolutely. I'm a restaurant nerd, as my girlfriend would say, and talking shop is what I love. And then additionally, like I told you earlier, I think that as an industry, if we can share best practices and ideas, we're all going to come out of this stronger. And it can start here. And thanks for doing this series. It's going to be really helpful to a lot of people with all the people you brought on. So
appreciate it, Matt. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Doug.